What is up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Destination the Show. This is episode 121. We are doing Twins minor league injury updates and the debate around the number one overall pick in the 2026 MLB draft. My name is Jamie Cameron, joined, as always, by the inevitable Jeremy Nygaard.
Inevitable? Is that really the word?
Inevitable that you're going to be here.
That
I
I'm
guess
gonna
it's
be
not
here?
really a compliment of any kind, is it?
It's not even a little bit. But inevitably, I am here, and I don't even know if you asked how I am, but I'm good. How are you? More importantly, how is Jamie?
I'm doing fine. Man. It's I've really been enjoying the summer weather.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the college baseball, but okay.
The college baseball was absolute chaos in regional play. Number 1 national seed UCLA, done. Number 2 national seed Georgia Tech, done. That's the second year in a row that the number 1 and number 2 overall national seed have been eliminated in regional play. So goodbye, Rock Chalowski and Von Lackey. That was fun. Watching a lot of kid games, which is fun. It's still in fun stage. We haven't got to the point of the summer where it's a little bit of a drag.
Right.
But life is good, man. No complaints. How about you, for real?
So the only college baseball text that I initiated the whole weekend was when I happened to turn on the Georgia Tech game and they got walked off.
Yeah.
And I text you and I said, yeah, I saw that. And then crickets from you for hours. So the other thing that I've noticed in my following of the college baseball, the ejections for petty reasons. Like,
oh my God.
If I want an up show, I'll watch the NBA. Right? Like the guy that turned and pointed to his parents, although parents sitting behind the opposing dugout is a decision, right?
Yeah.
Emotion in college baseball is great because that's what makes the World Baseball Classic and
totally
the Winter League baseball, like all of the emotion. Showing people up, yeah, don't do that, but playing baseball and showing, that it's fun, do more of that. And so I look forward to how this all plays out. There's going to be some teams that don't really have, much baseball prestige playing in Omaha, which is pretty cool.
Yep. Troy or Arkansas Little Rock, one of those two teams will be in the College World Series.
Mm-hmm. That's nuts.
And the fact that I think there's 2 3s still in, 2 4s still in. There's so much parity in college baseball. It really is super electric. So
and that kind of goes against the idea of NIL money, right? Where
totally
the most quality players are going to make the most money, and that's not just baseball, but I mean we've seen that with guys not getting drafted because they have big deals. We've seen it. I mean, it's more common in football. It's obviously pretty common in basketball as well. But obviously, baseball teams aren't gonna be great because of one guy. And so I think that's what you see. I was a little disappointed Milwaukee lost. They had a shot to move on, but
Auburn is probably the best pitching staff in the country, though. I got to say that. I mean, no one likes a moral victory, but the fact that they did what they did and got to that regional final was incredible. And actually, props to Auburn too, because many of the top teams in the country just kind of wilted under that pressure of losing their first game, and Auburn came roaring all the way back and kind of did it the hard way. But Milwaukee were definitely America's team in regional play. It was pretty fun. All right, dude, let's do some housekeeping here, and then we got plenty to jump into. And so many listener questions. I'm blown away by. I guess I just feel like the Twins are mediocre, fine, maybe a little bit better than we imagined, but people are interested in the minor league system and the draft, and that brings me a lot of joy. Ways that you can support the show: you can like and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice. You can find all of our stuff on YouTube. The handle there is at Destination the Show. If you want to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter. The handle there is at DTS_pod1. On Blue Sky, the handle is at Destination the Show, or send us an email, destinationtheshow@gmail.com. Jeremy, I feel like we're beholden to amplify the minor league injury updates. So I'm gonna list some off for you, and you can tell me who you're really excited to see out of the like dozen or so players that are making their way back from injury over the course of the next week. This was part of media availability from Jeremy Zoll yesterday. So the first game of any new Twins homestand, I think that's right, isn't it, Jeremy? They tend to do media availability and get a bunch of updates for folks who are at the game. Is that right?
That seems to check out. I never really did the math on that, but I think you might be onto something.
Okay. Here's the quick highlights. Enrique Jimenez, back with Fort Myers, suffered a minor ankle sprain that caused him to miss a little time after his original injury. Will not need an IL stint. Adrian Bojorquez joining the FCL Twins today. Threw an inning, was up to 99 miles an hour to start a rehab assignment from, I think, a flexor strain. Here's possibly the big one, Jeremy, and I'll pause to get your reaction to this. If you listen to the show, you may have heard a hint about this one coming. Charlie Soto is starting a rehab assignment with Fort Myers tomorrow. Can't wait.
Yeah, we did talk about that one.
That's one we had a little bit of a beat on. Kendry Rojas could be cleared to throw again this week, so very minimal missed time potentially. Another big one, I believe Theo tweeted this out from the ballpark. Walker Jenkins hitting off a tee and off a pitching machine. Hopefully will face live pitching later this week. Could be on a rehab assignment in the next couple weeks, which is exciting. James Ellwanger working his way back from an elbow sprain. 2 bullpens planned this week. Timetable depends on how those go. Emmanuel Rodriguez recovering from thumb surgery. May be ready for a rehab assignment around mid-July.
That hurts.
That's brutal. Just because he looked the most ready of the big three in St. Paul. And then last but not least, Bruin Agbayani, who really hasn't got going yet. The Twins, I want to say 6th round pick in 2025, is facing a multiple month absence after injuring his shoulder running to first base. Don't have any more information from that. Don't want to speculate. Sounds like it could have been a poor base running decision. But that is kind of a bummer.
Did he fall?
That's all Tom, but in the note on Limestone Pipeline on Patreon. So that's all I got. I don't have anything else on that one.
I mean, if you're 49 years old, I could see you injuring your shoulder running, right? If you're 19 years old, I feel like running shouldn't be a precursor to shoulder injury. I mean, unless you trip over the base, land on your shoulder, have a collision at first base, right? Like, that's an interesting one. That's a bummer. I mean, that's shoulders. Shoulders, I think, are scarier than, I mean, pitching wise anyway. Shoulders are to the point where they're kind of scarier than elbows. But you list all those names. 4 hitters, 4 pitchers. Obviously, Walker Jenkins is the crown jewel there, right? So,
yep,
going to be a guy that should make his major league debut this year. So I think that's one that we obviously want to see. Erod would have been on that list too, and now I think he's more put himself in position to be like if the Twins are still in contention in July, like he becomes kind of that trade deadline ad. Rojas showed some glimpses. Like I think he's certainly someone that coming into this year, you kind of dreamed on, right?
Totally.
But I think at this point, you pencil him into a solution, right? I don't necessarily know what the problem is, but he's part of a pitching solution. He's going to be one of the 13 at some rate, and it might be a low leverage reliever, worst case. But I think he's got enough stuff that he can factor in. Like when you think about the 13 spots, you got your 5 starters, you've got your hopefully elite closer, setup man, seventh inning guy. Like you've got 8 really premium spots, right? And I think there's a chance that he figures into one of those spots eventually. Maybe
Yep.
not yet. He's still young. Bajorquez and Soto, right? Those are just kind of lotto ticket arms at this point because they're so young, but both have the potential to like their ceilings are certainly in that premium pitching, whether that's the front end of a rotation or the back end of a bullpen. I think either of those guys would be easy to dream on. And Jimenez, I just like to talk about because you know why.
It's so funny that you say that. I know we talked about this last week too, but like, he's turning into my favorite lower level prospect.
Absolutely.
Have you seen? No, but have you seen his? Have you seen him run the bases after he hits a home run?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you retweet it.
Like 45 seconds, conservatively.
He's not agile.
He's not agile, but like
he doesn't want to hurt his shoulder.
He is taking liberties with how he goes around the bases, and he does this little dance at third base. I'm obsessed with the whole thing. It's so slow. It is so slow. Yep. It is almost the kind of thing that gets you thrown at. Not that I condone that, but I think it's really funny. I really want him to be good. He's continuing to mash, by the way. He's hitting like 500 through his first 8 or 9 games of the season. So long may
called hero.
I'm here for it. I'm so here for it.
All it cost was Chris Paddock, a couple starts for a good DFA. It's great trade. Love that trade.
Actually,
let's take a quick detour from the great trade and talk about how good Louis Varland's been. Just a brief second. Like the Griffin Jacks trade, it was like, well, yeah, Griffin Jacks has been really good, but it's like you're getting Tosh Bradley with Varland. You're getting 2 guys, right? And Rojas, we like Rojas. And Roden is one of those that's gonna factor in. But you dished out a homegrown dude who is maybe the best reliever today
in baseball. Yeah,
which is nuts, and it's too bad, but also great for Louis.
Oh, 100%, dude. The Rojas thing makes me think of. Did you ever used to watch like Family Guy? Have you ever seen that show?
I've seen the show, not religiously, no.
So same, but there's this episode where this guy offers Peter he wins a prize, and he offers him a boat or the mystery box. And he's like, I'll take the boat's just a boat, but the box could be anything. It could even be a boat. And I feel like that's exactly how Kendry Rojas is. Like, we're excited about his potential. The absolute best he could ever be as a reliever is like getting close to what Louis Varland's doing now and will do for the Blue Jays potentially for another, like, 3 seasons ish, at a very reasonable cost. So, it's funny because I was about to say, if we compared, remember when we did that like 4-hour podcast on the trade deadline about how crazy that was? They were just sending everyone, and Bonus was cussing, and it was pretty funny.
It was nuts.
I think at the time we felt pretty like meh on a lot of those trades, and I actually think most of them have flipped quite markedly now compared to what we thought at the time. Like, I wasn't super excited about Ryan Gallagher. He's looking really interesting.
Absolutely.
I was not excited really about Hendry Mendez. He has been unbelievable at AAA. You could argue he's knocking on the door. We were probably more excited about the Duran for Taiit and Abel trade. Well, Abel's on the IL and Taiit has looked fine.
Not as good as Aiden Miller.
Aiden Miller hasn't played a game in 2026, to be fair. So he has a back problem, which you don't want to have back problems when you're like 21. You
don't have back problems when you're 43. Believe me. It's awful.
But yeah, the Varland one, I love Kendry Rojas as an arm. And I think if Rodham was up and playing and was like a 2-win player in the majors, that's a very different conversation if you have him and Rojas in the mix. But the fact that Rodham's also been in the IL for a gazillion years is bad news. Okay. Let's quickly do a little draft chat. I do want to name a pivot that we're going to make because we are 6 weeks, less than 6 weeks out from the draft. It was 6 weeks on Saturday. We are, just to put this out there into the universe, doing our draft live stream. You can expect 6 to 8 hours of Jeremy and I rambling live stream on draft day, walking you through the whole day, the whole expanded day one. We'll get into the logistics of that, but mark your calendars, July 11th. We're doing it. It's going to be great. We are going to start to transition our episodes more to look at different demographics in the draft. So if you're a draft aficionado, this is going to be your season. And we'll continue, obviously, to fold in all of the minor league updates. Today, Jeremy, I wanted to start kind of transitioning into draft season by talking a bit about the number 1 pick. Because you made a call to me a few weeks ago, and you said something along the lines of, Twins Twitter is going to get hella attached to Von Lackey and then be super mad when they draft Jacob Lombard or Dexon Flora or someone else. And Rock Chalowski had a very disappointing regional in which he went 2 for 12, I think, with 2 singles. Von Lackey hit 2 450-foot nukes over the weekend. And for the first time in this entire draft cycle, we have a major industry draft board that has Von Lackey, not Rock Chalowski, courtesy of Joe Doyle at Overslot, former guest of the show, has now ranked Von Lackey as the number 1 player in the class. So your reaction to that ranking, Jeremy, do we think that is a kind of a like recency bias ranking, or do you think like there's credence to having that conversation of Rock versus Von at the top?
I mean, I think it's always worth having the conversation. What's crazy to me, and as I realize that I haven't been doing my job here on the sidebar, I think that when you get so far ahead of everybody, like Chalowski was,
mm-hmm.
there's that fatigue, right? Where we just get tired of talking about the same guy, and it's not like a marathon type thing where it's like, well, he's 5 miles ahead, mm-hmm. right? It's a different sort of race where you can't pull that far ahead because it's just not locked up. I would have told you were absolutely crazy if you would have considered anybody else instead of Chalowski. And I think it is kind of nuts that there's a flip on June 1st of all times. Like, it's been 2 years, and he was the Golden Spikes winner as a freshman, right? And he was better as a sophomore, and now he's regressed to just look better than I mean, he's not superhuman, but he's not regular human. And because of that, a guy that has just slowly moved up is now the number 1 prospect. It doesn't check out for me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we're comparing, and that's the 2 college guys. When you throw in the high school guy, where we see high school guys just take that kind of meteoric rise, it's all very interesting, and I love the fact that the Twins are 3rd, right?
I do too. I 100% do too. And I do think, right, and I want to ask you about Grady Emerson and transition there in a second, and we're going to get more into Lackey and Rock's numbers at the end of the year, and we'll probably do a full analysis deep in the weeds on the numbers and all that good stuff. But I do want to ask you about Emerson too, because you mentioned prospect fatigue with Chalowski. I think it's an incredible testament to Grady Emerson that we really haven't had the prospect fatigue experience with him, because he's been famous in youth baseball terms since he's been 15. He's played on 4 U.S. national teams. He's played every single infield position, first base, second base, shortstop, and third base for the national team. And he's somehow kind of been insulated from this prospect fatigue. So here's my Grady Emerson question for you. We talked a few weeks ago about how the Rays in recent drafts, they've leaned into quite a few prep left-handed bats. Right, so shoot, now I can't remember any of them, but like Nathan, Daniel Pierce, Nathan Flewelling is another guy. They've popped that profile of player. in the same way that we assumed that Rock is a lock for number 1, I also think we have locked in Emerson to the number 2 spot. Do you think that is silly? Do you think we should be a little more cautious in how we're viewing what the Rays might do at 2? What are your thoughts on, how we're thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think considering anything at this particular time is silly. Because I don't think any team, including the White Sox at 1, have really locked anything up. And so I think there's what is there 6 different combinations for the first 3 if we just take those first 3.
Mm-hmm.
Any of those 6 have, I'm not going to say at least a 10% chance, but this isn't like a flip of the coin between 1 and 2 and then 3 is just far off. Is there a world where Lackey goes 2? Absolutely. Is there a world that Emerson goes 1? Maybe less likely, but possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so, like, the money is probably not going to be a separator, but it's going to be very interesting when these 3 guys sign, because I think we all just assumed before the season, like, Cholowski will break a record at 1, and then the Rays would take the prep at 2, and he's the best prep.
Mm-hmm.
And who are the Twins going to draft at 3? And Von Lackey's done, to all of his credit, right? He's done everything possible to be in that conversation. But could I see Lackey go 2? Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Could I see Lackey go 1? Sure. Right? How often does a college catcher go 1?
Adley was the last, 2019.
And Davis was in there. And I do think, though, I mean, we look at it from this draft lens, but I think I texted you the other day, like, if Emerson drops to 3, I feel pretty good about the guy of those 3 that is probably most likely to be the number 1 prospect in baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a chance that Rock is there, but I think if he hits better than he hit last weekend, there's a pretty good chance that he doesn't spend a lot of time in the minors, right?
Agreed.
And Lackey, like, I think he could be pretty quick too. And right now, I think with, like, Made and the guys that are at the top of the list, like, they're not going to make their debut as quick as Cholowski does, right? So I don't know. It's a really, like, watching the draft lottery and the Twins not getting 1, and I was like, man, that's a disappointment. And they ended up at 3, and it's like, oh. But anyway, like, who's number 2? And at this point, it's like, I feel really good about drafting 3 as long as you don't get cute about it, right? And we don't know how their board looks. Emerson's 18, so it's not like he's too old as a high school guy. Lackey's still only 20.
So's Flora 20. I think Flora's 20 until
Flora just turned 21 last week.
Okay, never mind. So Lackey's like the youngest collegiate player in the draft too, which I have to assume appeals to the Twins.
Looks really well. And then the Eric Booth doesn't turn 18 until a week before the draft. So there's stuff that we've seen with their models, but I would have to think that any of those 3 are super appealing to the Twins, which is great. And if Jackson Flora is as good as, I can't get there yet. I can't.
I'm not there yet either, and we got a question about that. So we'll take it. We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back and dig into a really great mailbag. And I think moving forwards, you guys, what you can expect is we'll take a demographic a week, and we'll highlight some kind of key players, interesting potential targets for the Twins throughout the draft, and just guys to be aware of as much as we can between now and draft day. So don't go anywhere. We will be back in a couple of minutes with part 2, digging into a listener mailbag. All right, we're back with Destination the Show Part 2. We're going to jump into some questions. Thank you guys so much for keeping these coming. We got a really nice selection today, so let's jump right in. We'll start with a question from Internet Gnome. I feel like this is picture perfect for you, Jeremy. This is kind of your avenue with CBA negotiations underway. Is there any window or any kind of improved window for the Twins to sign some players in the minor leagues to extensions now before a possible salary floor and cap kick in? Do you think the negotiations, Jeremy, are going to impact how teams approach their young stars? We know that organizations like the Brewers have really targeted getting players they really believe in the minors kind of cost controlled. Do you think that's something that the Twins would go for, or too much kind of organizational change at the moment?
No, I mean, I think that that was a great idea, but I kind of feel like after we've seen the initial proposals on both sides and how far apart they are, that the ship to sign guys to these deals has kind of sailed. The really elite prospects, like I could see those deals happening. I just don't see those deals happening with any of the Twins guys because nobody's deserving of those. The Cooper Pratt type deals.
Yep.
I don't see players motivated to do that if you're talking about the salary minimum taking a pretty significant leap. If you're talking about the pre-arb deals and those pools expanding. And so I think that that's probably something that we won't see, even though it would make sense. I don't think anybody knows how this looks moving forward. And when there's that much uncertainty, it's really hard to say, well, let's lock it up. Like, for example, if there's a salary cap and also a salary floor, how are teams going to get from
totally
X to Z when it's a significant amount of money? And if I'm a young guy, I would be like, I'll sign that deal, right? Where you maybe front load a contract. So I would assume, like, if you get a signing bonus, that is paid out or counts over the duration of the contract, where you can see a situation where maybe you get more money early, or if you're a younger guy, it's flattened, right? Where instead of getting 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, you get 5 million every year, to try to help teams do that. So if I'm a prospect or an agent of a prospect, I would say, no, we ain't gonna do that. We're gonna wait.
Yep.
I just don't know how it works with teams that are committed so far into the future. Like, you're going over the salary cap, right? I also don't see the players ever agreeing to it.
Agreed. 100%.
So, and when MLB says we're just listening to the fans, there are no fans that have said, well, maybe there are some. There are not many fans that are saying, let's have a salary cap.
Totally agree with all of that. Let's move on to a question from Steve. He says, and I really, this is a good opportunity to talk about a guy. Very, short and sweet, Steve. Ben Ross for Luke Keeschel, ? Now, I want to use this to gas up Ben Ross a little bit and get your take on him too, Jeremy, because I feel like we're aligned in that, like, he's been a prospect who neither of us kind of rate, and maybe deserves a little more shine. But we should also mention that Luke Keeschel has heated up pretty significantly and quietly over the month of May. An OPS in March, only 4 games of 378. April was terrible, a 564 OPS. In May, quietly, and I'm saying quietly for me personally because I didn't really see much of this, I feel like, but he put up a 790 OPS with pretty much a 400 on base percentage. And so I think fair to say that he's not going anywhere anytime soon. What are your thoughts on Keeschel before we talk a little bit about Ben Ross?
Yeah, I did wonder when Wallner got sent down, when Lewis got sent down, like if it was time for a Keeschel reset. Obviously that didn't happen. I think he's maybe past that.
Yeah.
So I do think, though, that, I mean, if he goes back to not being great, like, he could get that reset. It's just not. It's not. Doesn't make sense at this point. But the other half of that question, we should talk about.
Let's talk about Ben Ross. Okay, and we really have under discussed Ben Ross probably So let's get into him a little bit. He was taken in 2022 draft, 5th round pick out of Notre Dame College, not the University of Notre Dame College. The Twins picked him up and picked him in the draft after scouting him pretty comprehensively in a Northwoods League. And if we rewind to 2024 and 2025, he looked like he was flaming out at AA. 2024, he played 123 games at AA, 73 WRC plus. Not much better in 2025, 120 games and 85 WRC plus. At that point, I'm ready to pretty much give up on a guy. No. In 2026, he played 16 games at Wichita and put up one of the best heaters I think I've ever seen in 16 games. He hit 5 home runs, walked 18% of the time, struck out 23. Walked 17% of the time, struck out 14 at 235 WRC plus. That's outrageous. I kind of assumed, Jeremy, when he was promoted to AAA that he would like taper off significantly, but he's been really quietly good. Mm-hmm. He's hitting 262, 415, 476. This is in 30 games, 4 home runs, stolen a couple of bases. He's put up a 135 WRC plus. What impresses me is he's walking close to 19% of the time. He has good bat to ball skills. And here's the thing I actually find interesting about Ross. He's a really good defensive infielder who's versatile. You can stick him anywhere in the dirt and he will make plays. So what do you make of Ross and his performance so far in 2026?
Yeah, I've been on record, or at least on here, saying organizational filler, right?
Totally.
Not necessarily a prospect. He's put himself in the conversation to make his big league debut, and it might be something where if the Twins are out of contention and they make a trade, that he's a guy that comes and fills in, or if there's an injury, he comes in and plays. But so far this year, 11 starts at third, 17 starts at short, 4 starts at second, and then 15 starts in the outfield, including 13 in center field. So he's very much the type that the Twins like. It wouldn't shock me at all if at some point, I mean, in 2023, he played a lot of games at first base. So I do think there's a path to him getting a look. And I think at this point, that's what you have to do, right? We talked before we went live. Right now, the Twins the major league roster has Ryan Kreidler, Tristan Gray, Orlando Arcia, Cody Clemens as infielders. Like, these are not long-term answers, right? They are journeymen who are playing in the major leagues.
Bless you, as Jeremy goes off on mute mid-answer to sneeze. Please continue.
It was a cough.
Oh, my bad. No, I mean, I 100% agree with that. I think these stories are some of my favorite as I've gotten more and more into minor league baseball. Is the guy who you thought is kind of, past the point where he's going to get a shot and it's suddenly kind of breaking out. I think Ross is almost this year's Fedco a little bit in a way where, we what did we think of Kyler Fedco last year? We thought, uninteresting. And now he's seemingly relevant. The people want Kyler Fedco to get a shot. Let's move on to the next question. Next question is from Josiah. And I want to answer this because, and I want to get your thoughts too, because I do think this is a good thought exercise for us. I will go publicly on record and say we are both, I think I speak for both of us, Jeremy. We are both pro drafting a position player at number 3. Take whoever's there. Rock, Lackey, Emerson, one of those 3. I'll walk away happy from this draft no matter what pretty much happens after. Josiah says, can you guys make the case for Jackson Flora? I don't want to necessarily make the case for Jackson Flora, but I will try. Jackson Flora turned 21 9 days ago, as you mentioned. He's 6'5", 190 pounds. He was easily the best pitcher in college baseball this year. He pitched 102 innings. We've seen a really nice increase in his collegiate career. 47 as a freshman, mostly relieving. 75 as a sophomore in a starting role behind Tyler Bremner. 102 as a junior. Had a 1.06 ERA this year, a 2.97 FIP, struck out 11.75 per nine. That's 33.3%. And walked 2.82 per nine. That's 8%. If you prefer the percentages, the stuff is super legit. It's a fastball that's been as high as 101. It's a pretty solid shape to that pitch. He has a absolutely ridiculous sweeper that has a ton of horizontal break. And then he's incorporated a kick change this year that's been really effective and generated a ton of miss. So the results have been there. The dominance has been there. What I texted you about last week was, if UC Santa Barbara and Texas both win their first game in their regional, you're going to see Jackson Flora pitch against UT, and they freaking lost to Tarleton. Oh,
Yeah, the best state in the union.
Tarleton State, the 51st state in the union, which denied us that matchup. So, I mean, look, Lackey. Flora has gone out and posted every single week this year. The stuff is legit. I think you can make a case that, like, what do the Twins do well? They develop arms really, really well. We've seen them have a track record of developing pitching well. Can you currently make a case for Flora at 3? And why are you kind of team position player over a pitcher, or this particular pitcher?
I think if Lackey doesn't his rise, right, then this is an easy argument to make. I think there's just 3 better, or even 3 equal or better hitters, and when it comes to a tie, you take the guy that impacts a team 6 or 7 games a week. And the truth is, there's a decent chance that a year from now we're going to turn on a TV and Jackson Flora is going to be destroying the Twins, right? And it's like, oh, we could have had that guy, because we've seen that. The pitcher for the rookie for the Mets, right? What's his name? Tell me his name.
Nolan McLean.
Yeah. And like for 6 innings, he looked absolutely dominant. And it's like, this is the type of guy that you could have. I think prospect wise, or at least organizational wise, you can always make room for someone like that.
Yep.
Jackson Flora. But you can also always make room for Brock Chalowski, Grady Emerson, Vaughn Lackey. I think beyond that, right, Jacob Lombard is maybe. But I think you could certainly make a case if Jackson Flora gets drafted. Maybe not 1 or 2. Like, I would be surprised if he went 1. I would be relatively surprised if the Rays took him at 2.
Agreed.
But
I think 3 is where his range starts, in my opinion.
And it makes sense. I just, unless, and I've said it, unless he's Paul Skeens, which he just isn't, because the competition hasn't been what Skeens did his last year.
Yeah.
Right. It's just he can't close that gap, and I do think he'll be a really good player. I mean, we've seen UC Santa Barbara pitchers go really early, right? Dylan Tate did it a while ago.
Yeah.
And we saw what's his face go second last year.
Bremner.
Tyler Bremner. And so I think it's pretty easy to make a case. I'm not buying it right now. But I do think historically, I've always at the top of the draft been like, no, give me Nick Gordon, don't give me Aaron Nola.
Yeah.
In hindsight, that didn't look great.
That one hasn't worked out well. Speaking of pitching development, did you see Andrew Marsh just threw 100?
I didn't. I saw Gomez get out of the 8th.
You missed a 100-mile-per-hour fastball from Andrew Marsh, which I don't think was on everyone's bingo card, but he did touch 99 in St. Paul last year. Here, let's put it this way, just to put a cap on this Flora conversation, because I agree with everything you said. Let's take Riley Quick as an example. Now, he's actually had a couple of like less exciting starts at Cedar Rapids the last 2 times out, right? But let's see, he continues on his trajectory this year. Probably fair to say he'd be like a top 100 prospect by the end of the year, and like at least in AA, right? Like probably in the 75 to 100 range, targeting a debut in 2027, assuming there's baseball. For me, Flora has to be so much better than a prospect like Riley Quick to make choosing him at 3 worth it. because you can get an arm with that relatively similar caliber of talent, and Quick has been up to 100 and touched 99 and all the things, and we took him 36th. And
Right.
so you have to be so convicted on what you can do with that pitcher, not to mention mitigating the injury risk of a pitcher versus a position player. I mean, that's laughable with the Twins, but in general, pitchers are a bit more breakable. So I agree 100%.
And I mean, you mentioned Quick is the 36th pick, but the Twins have done really well in the middle of the
Totally.
the rounds 3 through 10, and
Yep.
even outside of that. So, but yeah, drafting a pitcher, man, I don't love the idea of it at 3.
Yep. I'm going to ask this question just because it mostly made me laugh because of the phrasing. And then if you actually have an answer, you're welcome to give it. Frenchie asks, is there any data to suggest that the Twins, and I'm directly quoting his question, injured their prospects more than other teams, or is it just part of our curse? I don't have an answer to that because I haven't looked at data. I do know that all orgs players get hurt and get hurt frequently. So I don't have a reason to believe that it happens to the Twins more often. Do you have any strong feelings about that, Jeremy, before we move on?
I don't, aside from the fact that I think it always feels like your favorite team has players injured more than other teams. Just because if you're not paying attention to other teams, I mean, you mentioned Aiden Miller. I don't follow the Phillies closely. I don't know that their best prospect has been out all year, right?
Yeah, this is true.
And so I think that's kind of the reality. It felt this year, and so this is just jumping sports, it felt like, the Timberwolves had guys hurt, and it's like, man. And then at the end of the year, it's like they had the second least amount of players' games missed. And it's like the injuries that happened happened at a time that wasn't opportune. And so I would guess that over the course of time that data it exists, but it probably doesn't back up that claim. It's just when Erod's always hurt and Walker Jenkins always hurt, it feels like all the Twins prospects are always hurt.
Yep.
And though you don't talk about the Connor Prelips going unscathed, for a couple of years and things like that. So I would guess it's probably maybe a little above average, but not significant that suggests that they do actually injure their players more than other teams.
Yep, I think that's fair. We'll knock out the next one relatively quickly. Brett asks, any service time implications for the delay in a Kalen Culpepper call-up? Just real quick, Kalen Culpepper hit his 13th home run, 6th leadoff home run of the year tonight, 109 off the bat. So I think he's up to an 850-ish OPS at AAA, looking really good, very strong May after a relatively slow start. I would counter by saying, and then you're welcome to add on to the service time piece, I don't think this is a delayed call-up, in my opinion. For me, the threshold, you always talk about beating a level before you get a promotion. You always say, kind of beating AAA. To me, that range is 50 to 65 games, roughly. And a number of people have made this point of like when the Twins call up Culpepper, they don't want him to be yo-yoing up and down wherever possible. So you'd like to give him some runway to kind of get entrenched in the majors. So I actually don't think I do think we're getting to the end of that range. So it's about time. And I suspect that it's coming in the next week or so, but I do not have any evidence. Like he wouldn't even earn a full year of service time this year. So I don't think that is factoring in at all.
Couple things. First, beating a level that's what players will say too. It's harder now because you play these week-long series. Mm-hmm. And so it used to be you would play a 3 or 4 game series, and if you played really well consistently, and then when you got to that next rotation of playing the same teams again, that was when it was like, oh yeah, they did it against the first time we saw these pitchers. Now they're doing it against them again. But it's just different now because you play them in a week and then you don't see them for twice as long. So that makes it a little bit harder. The other thing is the service time manipulation is you can throw it all over the window until a new CBA has been agreed to. the Players Association wants to change the Super 2 from the top like 18% to the top 38%. And so all of these things that we've come to know and kind of understand, I think you can toss them out, because all of these things are kind of up for debate as to what really happens in the next set of rules. I think the truth is you want guys up using all of your bullets in the major leagues, and the trickle up effect when you have a limited amount of minor league guys. So if you can get your prospect on the 40 man, push out a guy that's just kind of taking up a space, I think teams will be more likely to do that, give guys a chance. But yeah, the lockout is going to certainly impact all of these decisions, because there's no certainty beyond October that really any of this can happen. And honestly, I'd want to get guys up quicker, because when the lockout happens, there is no communication.
Yep.
Right. And so if I'm a big league staff and I want to have more conversation with Caleb Culpepper, I want to get him up so he can work with my hitting coach a little bit. And so then prior to the lockout, there can be some conversations, because once that happens, no talk. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I would like to see that just be kind of the club's ideas to let's be a little bit more aggressive with these guys, because I would say the one certainty looking forward is there's going to be a work stoppage, and this would give guys an opportunity to hear that different voice one time before they don't get to hear it.
That's such a bummer. I think I agree with all of that. Quick one from Corey here, Jeremy. I'm going to skip the Rodon. He asked about Alan Rodon's injury situation. I actually don't have an update on Rodon, which is kind of a bummer. Still working his way back from shoulder injury. Corey asked, do the Twins deal? He talks about both at the minor league level and AAA, assuming health, which we can't, but also in the majors, the Twins have kind of a plethora of outfield players and cites that as kind of a position of strength for the organization. Do you think it's possible that the Twins deal from the outfield as a position of organizational strength at the deadline in 2026?
I would say not the deadline, but potentially in the off season, like whenever that happens, right? Because besides Larnach, do the Twins have healthy outfielders? Martin Larnach.
He's been bad recently.
He was. I mean, really good from one viewpoint to, yeah, exceptionally terrible. But there's not a lot of healthy depth, right?
Yep.
And so it would be difficult to deal from that. I think you reevaluate in the off season. Larnach has been pretty good, right? And Wallner has been not good. Like, you don't want to sell low on guys. So I think that's the other thing too. I'm just not sure what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get a fringe 40 man pitcher? Like, that's a cash consideration type thing. I'm just not sure what this depth is going to do unless you look way down low and deal a guy that has that sort of lotto ticket value. I don't know that it makes sense at this deadline. You're not likely to be a buyer. But we still have 7 weeks to figure that out. As Gomez, man, he's a dude.
He is shaping up to be, definitely, which is certainly exciting. Okay, Baseball and Cats asks, how does Jason Wright's rank against guys like Soto, Charlie Soto, Jason Hill, James Ellwanger, etc.? Obviously, they're different styles.
Taller and skinnier.
He literally says, I love tall pitchers. I think that's a really interesting question that we need to wait a little bit to find out. So here's the Wrights is back, and he's throwing at Fort Myers. He had a rocky first outing, a much better second one. We need to see how the stuff plays over a couple of appearances before we talk about what it's looking like. My understanding was in spring training, the Twins had him up to 98 with his fastball, which is a little bit of a surprise because he wasn't, well, maybe it's not a surprise. He certainly wasn't throwing that hard in college. He hasn't necessarily carried that velo pop forwards and was dealing with kind of a foot issue, I think, that took a while to go away. So I'd like to see him settle in. Here's what I'll say. I think it's hard to rank him against those other guys. He doesn't have as good of stuff as any of those guys.
Mhm.
Soto, Hill, Elwanger. But he is someone who, as we've talked about before, the release traits is what's interesting about him, the release height, all that good stuff. I think he has starter traits. And by that, I mean enough of a combo of stuff, velocity, and strikes to potentially be a middle to back end guy. And I think that's a good outcome for a guy who was selected where he was in the draft, which I think he was a third rounder, fourth rounder. Yep. So I would put him maybe below Soto and Hill, who I'm still counting as starting pitching prospects. I do believe at some point Elwanger may transition into a bullpen role because I don't know if he's going to throw enough strikes. But Wrights will have a lot of value, even if he can stick around as like not a similar pitcher as this guy, but someone like Andrew Morris or Ryan Gallagher, who you can potentially filter towards the back end of your rotation.
Yeah, I think right now, is he throwing 6 innings and walked one guy? Like, that's one that I'll be watching. And that's the hardest thing for really long-armed, long-limbed pitchers. Like, you lose your release point, and all of a sudden you're walking a whole bunch of dudes. And so that's one thing that I'm intrigued by. The other thing is there's not much to him, and it might take some time to fill out, and that's when some of these big gains happen. So I think despite being a college guy, this is more of a how does he develop like we would treat a high school guy, and there's going to be injuries, there's going to be all sorts of stuff that comes up, but I think it's kind of like, let's see if we can cash that in for anything at the end, because there's certainly some unique traits there.
Yep. A couple more, then we'll call it a day. Matthew asks, is Merrick Houston's defense as good as advertised? Is it Merrick Houston, Kalen Culpepper, Brooks Lee infield realistic by 2028? I mean, I'll certainly take a stab at the first part, and then you can comment on the possible infield combo, Jeremy. Merrick Houston's defense is really slick at shortstop from what I've seen. Comfortably looks like the best defensive shortstop in the system. My question remains, what is this offensive output going to look like? I would call out the Jeff Johnson, who covers the Cedar Rapids Colonels. You should follow him on Twitter because he's really awesome. He noted the other day that Houston's heated up significantly. I think he's 10 for his last 22. And so I assume AA is coming for him at some point, but it is a very like batting average driven, pretty empty, like 750 OPS at high A, which is okay. Certainly not a disaster, and it's better than he accomplished last year, but it doesn't really get you out of your seat excited about his offensive profile. And he is going to need to hit a little bit if he's going to cut it as a major league shortstop and not just like a super utility defensive type player. So I think jury's still out there. What do you think about that potential infield combo by 2028?
That's a good question, because I mean, I don't know. Are we confident that Brooks Lee is going to get another full year after this year? I mean, is he a third baseman now? Like, I don't know about that any more than I know if Royce Lewis is going to be the third baseman. I think Culpepper will get a shot to be the shortstop, and if he can do it, he'll be the shortstop. And how's Merrick Houston going to move him off? Like, it's not going to be like, oh, Merrick Houston's better defensively.
Right.
One of those two have to be a hit at shortstop, right? I think Houston could potentially play second base. Like, he's got more of the bat to be a second baseman. But then where's Keishel go? I think Keishel factors into this more prominently than Houston or Lee. But I also wouldn't confidently say that Keishel and Culpepper are the second baseman and shortstop in 2028 at this point. This may clear up in 6 weeks, right? If Grady Emerson gets drafted, I think we say Grady Emerson is going to be the shortstop. If Rock Chalowski gets drafted, I think we confidently say Rock Chalowski is the shortstop, right?
Yep.
And then does that mean Culpepper could potentially play third? To me, that's more logical. But I think there's a lot of things that a lot of puzzle pieces to try to fit together. Is it realistic that could happen? It could. I would bet heavily against.
Fair. Okay, 2 more questions. This one's a really fun one. Max asks, in an alternate universe in which the Twins do not draft Walker Jenkins, Charlie Soto, or Brandon Winokur in the 2023 draft, where do they land in the 2026 draft as college players? Factoring in college commitments, coaching, competition, bonus points if you imagine the 2024 draft with the comp picks received from them not signing. So this is a good question, right? Okay, I have given this a little bit of thought. So let me walk through some thoughts, and you can interject, interrupt me, redirect me, argue back for what you don't agree with. And there'll probably need to be some fact checking because I'm doing a lot of this from memory. So the Twins drafted Walker Jenkins 5th in 2023. He was committed to the University of North Carolina. He was one of the premier 5 prospects in this draft. I have a hard time believing he wouldn't be in the top 10 conversation this year if he was eligible and he performed through college and he's at a top ACC program. He's in the conversation for the top 3, in my opinion.
I would agree.
Like if we stack up Grady Emerson and Walker Jenkins's tools and high school performance and summer circuit data, that's a really interesting conversation to have around which prospect is better. And I think it's really close. Like that's how good Grady Emerson is, right? Walker Jenkins was pretty much a consensus 6C future value prospect prior to the draft. I think Emerson is the same. So that's one is relatively easy. Charlie Soto is interesting because I think he was committed to the University of South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He, at the end of his high school career, converted from shortstop to pitcher. South Florida is not a tremendously strong program at the moment. So, look, there's a couple of possibilities for what happens to Soto, and you can weigh in and give me your thoughts. One is he spends 1 year there, immediately transfers to a Power 4 team because he has so much arm talent. Like if you're throwing 100, you don't need to see out your college career at South Florida.
Right.
I also think there is a world in which Charlie Soto gets lost in the shuffle a little bit in college and doesn't even get drafted at all, or gets drafted somewhere in rounds 10 to 20, which I see you nodding, which maybe makes me think that you're on the same page. What do you think about Soto?
Yeah, I think with all of those, I mean, it's not Soto, it's any high school arm that is you draft based on potential. They're not getting the same coaching in college, right? I should rephrase that. They're not getting the same comfort coaching. His arm would have blown up because he would have thrown 100 miles an hour, and then they would ask him to come back and do it a couple days later, and he would have missed significant amount of time. He's missed time while being treated with kid gloves, and so I would say not a factor in the 2026 draft. In the event that he did absolutely shove for a year, yeah, he's thrown in the SEC, and then he probably is getting overused in the playoffs right now and hurting his draft stock. So that's why I like drafting college guys, because you can be careful with them and develop them. The college guys that do what we've seen at the top of the draft are pretty rare. But I think with all high school guys, it's like you said, they kind of get lost in the shuffle.
Winokur is the most interesting. Here's why. Winokur was committed to UCLA. So he would be hypothetically on this team with Roxalowski, with Will Gasparino, with Roman Martin, with Mulavai Lavu, like all these guys, Logan Redeman, Cal Randall, all of these draft eligible prospects. He's another one who I think it's a lottery. If he puts it together as a college player, he potentially is a first rounder because you have the tools that are rare. That level of tools is rare in college. Most of the time, someone like Winokur gets paid like $2.5 million and they're signing for a pro team. So there's a world in which he's an absolute monster in college. There's also a world in which he doesn't hit enough in college and doesn't see much playing time. So I think he has a huge range of outcomes, Winokur, and I just that's a really tough one that I struggle to wrap my head around. But I did think it was a fun note that he would have been on the same team as Chalowski this year.
So the bonus points is imagine the 2024 draft with the comp pick. So if the Twins don't sign Jenkins at 5, they get the 6th pick.
Yep.
So that means Bazzana, Burns, Condon, Kurtz, Smith off the board. And you're sitting there at 6. And you do have guys like J.J. Weatherholt. Or do the Twins want to go prep shortstop because they love that and take Connor Griffin?
Or Nick Kurtz. How about Nick Kurtz?
Well, Kurtz went 4.
Oh, he went 4. My bad.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have taken Griffin personally.
Weatherholt
for sure. Because it's Twinsy. Oh, by the way, Weatherholt, like pound for pound, is maybe the best rookie in baseball because he's so good defensively. And like all of the offensive stuff hasn't completely come together yet. I love JJ Weatherholt as a prospect. I think he is extremely Twinsy, like an up the middle, good hit power combo. For sure, that's the guy, right?
So well then, I mean, butterfly effect. If you take him at 6, and now you have the 21st pick, you're not taking Kevin Culpepper 2, right?
Agreed.
You're taking somebody else, and I don't know who that.
I'm not doing that.
You know what it is? It's Ryan Walshman. That's who they take.
Sure, we loved Ryan Walshman. So okay, so let's zoom to the next pick because Charlie Soto was what? Comp A? Nope. What was Charlie Soto? Charlie Soto was Comp A 36 overall.
Comp A. So the Twins got Kyle DeBarge for losing Sonny Gray. So that was 33. So they probably wouldn't. I mean, they got Culpepper and DeBarge. If they got Weatherholt, they're not taking, and then Waldschmidt, they're not taking DeBarge at 33, and then they got another pick at 37. Like you're taking prep pitchers, probably. You got all that top. They're taking Caleb Bonnemer is who they're taking.
Yeah, Caleb Bonnemer has worked out quite well.
Ryan Sloan. You have all that money.
Oh, dude, Ryan Sloan is so good.
I think you don't have to take Billy Amick either. You could take somebody else.
Can you imagine a Weatherholt Sloan first 2 picks in a draft? That's outrageous. Where did the Twins? What overall pick was Winokur taken with Jeremy? So we can provide one more. It was 3rd round. I want to say 3rd.
Let me go back to 23 here.
No. I'm on the wrong year. Because I'm looking at 2024. It was what?
He was drafted 82nd.
You could take Joey Oki the next year at 83rd because he went 84th. Or how about this, Jeremy? I got it. I got it for the 2024 pick. Mike Sirota.
He went 87.
Mike Sirota is a good Twinsy pick too. Do you remember how much conversation we had about how great he was as a sophomore, how terrible he was as a junior, and we debated that endlessly and still liked his tools. He got drafted in like the 3rd round, and now he's a monster top 50 prospect for the Dodgers who's absolutely mashing. Yeah. So there's your ideal draft class in 2024. It's JJ Weatherholt, Ryan Sloan, and Mike Sirota. Decent.
Did all be hurt?
That's such a fun question, Max. Thanks for sending that in. Last one is from Kyle, more of a like rhetorical, but we'll quickly answer it. He says, would you guys consider doing a shadow draft to compare how your picks stack up against the Twins moving forward? So we're putting that out there. If you're up for it, Jeremy, putting that out there in the universe before every pick on day one, before the Twins pick, and we get focused on that. We got to put a stake in the ground and say, Jeremy, who are you taking here? And Jamie, who are you taking? And we'll kind of monitor how our picks stack up. Now, we get the luxury of not having to worry about the money piece, which is very convenient for us. So we should do quite well. But that would be a fun thought exercise. No reason we can't do that on draft.
It has crossed my mind a number of years. The draft actually gets kind of chaotic.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll forget.
And then we just end up doing one of those boards or you know what I mean.
Kyle, you will have to watch the live stream and like constantly remind us in the chat, or we will forget, because it is absolute chaos when we're live streaming for 6 hours. All right, that's going to do it for today, you guys. We'll be back with another episode next week. We'll start digging into draft demographics. We'll take more draft questions if you got them and start getting you guys ready for day one, 6 weeks from now. Until then, thank you guys so much for sending in the questions, for your support of the show. Until next time, enjoy the baseball.